Welcome to our studio, the Shenoy Innovation Studio, and we also now call it the Design Innovation Center from the funds we received from MHRD to take innovation forward. Our title of the course is called Innovation by Design, and we have been working in the area for the last 3 decades to work on situations of how we can look at innovation by using design thinking principles. I'm also very glad that today the design thinking principles have caught on quite well, and we're using design thinking for strategy, design thinking for developing new products, design thinking for excellent marketing initiatives and various aspects. Let me take you through the whole journey, innovation journey of how we work and how we go about our design process. Our design school, being at IIT Bombay, has tremendous amount of advantage of using technical and ergonomic expertise for coming up with products of great innovation value. Similarly, we are looking at our design program itself, and the design methodology talks about how we look at the aspects of design basis, ranging from design of bamboo crafts, design for children, design for automotive, design for consumer goods. So we're looking at an all-pervading design value, which is extremely important, and then we now know that design is all-pervading and our methodology is common. So if there's a formula or a methodology for design, why can't we apply this in all contexts? Why can't we see it everywhere? So my grounding, after my design, sort of Master of Design at IDC, IIT Bombay, I joined Larsen & Toubro on campus placement. And that was one of the best training grounds for me for innovation. Here, I was the lone designer across the largest, sectors of technology, ranging from technology for making milk products, to technology for making thermal pumps, to technologies for using electronics for army, as well as technologies for coming up with gasoline dispensers. I was put in the gasoline dispenser division, and that's where most of my grounding happened. So one strong thing we learned from our L&T experience was that you need to understand the synergy of any company you work for. It could be a large company or it could be a small company. If you can understand the synergy of that company, your design innovation can go really great guns. But without understanding the synergy, if we start doing design, then there is no competitive advantage, and then design becomes a failure. So my grounding for 6 years over here really got me into this whole development angle of what is excellent in an efficiency model, where I call all manufacturing enterprises efficient. If you're efficient, sometimes you're very poor in innovation because you don't let new things happen. So how do we tackle this challenging paradigm of being efficient and also coming up with innovation? So that made me move out of Larsen & Toubro, because I learned at Larsen & Toubro that I could do innovation time and again. And with this innovation, I want to share with students of how design can lead to innovation. And I moved to IIT Delhi in the year 1994, and then started my whole journey of looking at enterprise, research, and innovation. In fact, here it's very interesting that when I joined IIT, the professors were pretty unhappy. I was treated very well in industry because of my innovation projects. But when you go to IIT Delhi, they said you don't have a PhD, you don't have research, and then there was no value for me. So it's again very interesting and important for us to know how we need to establish the synergies of each enterprise. Like the way I talked about Larsen & Toubro, similarly IIT Delhi has a synergy, and that synergy is research. So research-led innovation is the key. So then I had to do my PhD, so I said, let me now look at PhD in the area of collaborative innovation, because I realized that without collaboration, innovation is very difficult, especially disruptive innovation is extremely difficult. So here, I had the grounding of, starting my research as well as taking understanding how these things. I'm going to show you more, while I, introduce myself and take you through this, the research journey. So then after my 6 years at IIT Delhi, I moved back to IIT Bombay as a faculty here because I wanted to get back and see how I could actually use my research, use my design thinking, and also use the capability of synthesizing and come up with time and again like a simple formula for innovation. So that was my major quest, but it was far from realization because it's not that easy at all. Because when you get into products, when you get into systems, when you get into processes, human resource also becomes very, very important. Where do you get the human resource to take innovation forward? So then came my next quest. I was in 2005 in Washington, D.C. with some of our alumnus. All IIT Bombay alumnus, as you know, have done very well. We have some of the best sort of alumni doing extremely well in America, and their companies are doing very well. And in one of their Pan IIT alumni meets, they said, let us give back to IITs. Let us fund labs in IITs. And to the everlasting credit of the Shenoy brothers, they sponsored our lab. They said, we want ready to give you a lab in IIT to do design innovation, and that's how we have this whole, that's a concept rendering. But now we are in this lab. So now coming to my whole endeavor in IIT Bombay, I first started with large classes and teaching design innovation to BTech students. And this is one of my classes where I'm showcasing one of my challenging projects of designing a letterbox for India Post. And then we also have very early, we train students in working in groups. And coming up with creative ideas, because when students work in groups, my students especially from the BTech levels, they don't want to look at how they can fail, because they're very, very positive guys, and without thinking of failure, you won't be creative. So creativity, is extremely, extremely important for most of the aspects. So hence, we make them, come up with creative, out-of-the-box solutions, make some of the solutions not work, and things forward like this. So this is like groups working. So we have sometimes teams of 10 people with 14 groups working in a course on innovation by design. And then we also do a lot of work for the police. For example, this is for our police, where we're working on a helmet for them. We have a tinkering table. I think it's just behind this. Vaibhav, you can just lift up the screens. We have some tinkering tables in the small ecosystem where we actually created this ecosystem where we have the whole setup over here, and below this building we have something called the product development cell. Here there's a concept development, and then we have the product development cell. So we have the tinkering table where you can see 3D printing machines and building models. So like that, we actually built all the sort of models, and this is the tinkering table. We are working on a helmet for one of our commandos who are after the 9/11, we have the Force 10 commandos who were working with us very closely to develop helmets and make those helmets fit well for the people. So here we are, then we have this wonderful ecosystem in IIT where we're looking at how, students can learn and how our projects can address from the creative ideas of students. For example, you can see how the creative ideas, we work with clay models, we work with very, very flexible material. So from here we can showcase how I work even with students with real life projects. This is a safety helmet for a construction worker. The students have to, within a course of 2 weeks, they have to come up with a mock-up and a prototype and wear them and feel. And then the company for which we were working were extremely happy that we could design such variety of helmets. And the biggest advantage is by using the creative ideation, these helmets actually were sort of more stronger than the traditional helmets they were using. So now, after I started working in IIT Bombay, we had these huge projects. We built the studio, but we were lacking really in an aspect of synergistic manpower. I was missing the efficiency of Larsen & Toubro. And for a number of years, we were having that tussle. So then we came up with this interesting aspect of innovation by design, where the design has to address the innovation, and the innovation has to be done by design. So this is like a where you to design the innovation process and you use design thinking for innovation. It's like a loop, and this loop was extremely important, and I'll show you some case studies while I go forward how this loop of innovation by design is working well. So now coming to our basic premise of the innovation pivots. So the innovation pivots are very critical in our direction of innovation. The most important pivot for innovation is user insight. And this user insight is just not the end user, but it is also the people who are manufacturing. It is also the people who are giving us the technology. It's also the people who are actually servicing our products. It's also the people who are actually selling our products. But they have hierarchies. The topmost priority is for the end user. Next comes the tertiary users and the secondary users, and those are important aspects of user insights. And I'll show you how these user insights played a vital role in taking things forward. Similarly, we are also looking at a very straightforward formula in all my projects, and I'll show you those case studies and examples where we talked about new technology and materials. I'm not talking about futuristic technology. I'll show you those projects later on. But even the projects which I did, just by using contemporary technology, contemporary materials, we're able to take design forward in a very, very interesting way. And then comes the most critical, which designers do the best, which is creative ideation. We are missing creative ideation in industry very, very badly. And this creative ideation is the seed of innovation, and these seeds are very important to sow very early in enterprises, and it is not happening because enterprises are on efficiency modeling. So these are very important because you have to have a balance sheet, you have to have a profit at the end of the year, and then people are always asking for results within 2-3 years, and innovation results don't come so fast. They take sometimes 5 to 10 years to come out. So these are the challenges which all industries face, and then I'm going to show you how we developed the whole collaborative model and how we took this whole thing forward. Let me now quickly show you a very interesting idea of the valleys of death for innovation. So what are these valleys of death? Let me quickly show you a small video. The first valley of death is actually where the design doesn't reach the prototype. The next valley of death is where the prototype doesn't reach the pilot production. And the third valley is where the pilot production doesn't reach the mass production. So it's very, very clear that these valleys are very critical in the growth of any design-led innovation. So look at the first sort of design to prototyping aspect. And in the design to prototyping aspect, you can see how the first jump is very critical, and building mock-ups, building design prototypes is very important to take the idea forward. Similarly, you need special teams of social scientists, technologies, and creativity experts to make these leap. Now, like for example, there it was a pole vault. So when you're going actually from like the prototyping to pilot production, you need it's a small small quantity production. So you need vendors who are capable of handling small production. You need to spend a lot of money in tooling because you need soft tooling to prove whether the product is going to be successful or not. Then you need a lot of jigs and fixtures to build the product, and the product is generally 4 times more expensive than the mass-produced product. Because without the pilot, I don't know whether I should spend crores of rupees in my product development. So from the pilot production, then we go to mass production. Here, see, you're actually flying. The costs are increased, and then your baggage is more, and your expenses are very high, and you need all types of experts, ranging from engineering experts, tooling experts. Financial planning is very critical here, because when you go for mass production, the amount of investments in mass production is very, very large. You all know that. But luckily, because when I've done pilot production, it's very easy for me to understand whether my product is going to be successful or not, and we're going to show you some examples of how that happens. And then you of course need the marketing and supply chain in a very efficient way to take these things forward. Now let me show you my most favorite example of serial innovation. I'm extremely proud to tell you that I'm one of the only designers who've been working on gasoline dispensers across the years from 1988 to 2006. And these pumps are all designed by me. Each pump, for example, I designed has actually, has obsoleted my own earlier pump. This is a great example of how innovation can go forward. For example, my whole grounding in L&T was with the Z-line petrol pump, where it became such a runaway success that even government enterprises were only giving orders for Z-line. And they would say tender for Z-line, and nobody else could compete. And so this was the biggest advantage. And after that, when I became a professor at IIT Delhi, the competitor came promptly back to me and said, can you please design a dispenser for me? And at that time, I took this as my PhD topic. And during the PhD topic, I gave this as a student project, and we worked on the bullet dispenser for Midco. And this bullet dispenser, again, became so popular that it actually cannibalized my own, L&T Z-line pump. But it was after 6 years, so it was ethically correct to work on innovation after 6 years, because that was the, the product lifespan we gave for each product. They're the mother of all oil companies. ONGC came to us and said, can you please design a pump for us, which will be the best in the world? And that pump again was, very, very interesting, where, we collaborated. By this time I'd finished my PhD. We collaborated with NID. And in fact, NID got the order for this petrol pump called the Oval. They, collaborated with us. Then we worked with Midco, a company with which we designed the bullet dispenser, and we came up with this next, product, which was completely using, great user insights, a tremendous amount of new technology and materials, and of course, very good aspects of creative ideation, and coming up with this oval shape, which was very, very efficient, very good maintenance capabilities, and using contemporary aesthetics and styling depending upon how the new canopies and designs are being done. So this became very, very popular, but this product didn't go beyond the pilot production. And then finally, we worked with Midco again as a retainer consultant from IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, where we designed the Sure-Fill Midco dispenser. And you can see this dotting all over the country today. And it's already all the other 3 products are now out. And the only product which is now running is the Sure-Fill from Midco. And this is a multi-hose dispenser, and you have multiple fuels. So you have this multi-hose dispenser coming in. Let me quickly show you the design basis, the thinking which goes behind developing products. How does creative ideation, how does building concepts at different stages help in taking things forward? Let me show you a quick video on how we started from a very, very small sketch, build models, and then took the project forward. Can I have the video, please? Look at how we took analogies and came up with some of the renderings. We call them the totem poles, and because the petrol pumps are on the road, and they're like signals for you to come and fill petrol. So we took those examples and made renderings. After that, we made small scale models. And to be frank with you, the maximum creativity came when we built these models, and you can see the predecessor over there. And after selecting 3 out of these models, we built full-scale thermocol models. These are full-scale. In fact, at that time, it was very interesting that the company was amused that I could make full-scale thermocol models. But then we got a lot of insights into manufacturing and design when we made full-scale. And then we selected 2 and made prototypes. And these prototypes were tested in the field. And then we could then choose one. And we chose the Z-line because of its novelty, because of its challenging of engineering. And L&T is called Imagineering. So we said, are the engineers ready to take up this challenge? And they said, yes, we are ready. So that's how this pumps became very, very popular in the 90s. The biggest challenge, because satisfaction for us was that we were very, very happy that the children during those 90s were sketching petrol pump as a Z shape rather than as a box. And that's the type of penetration these products have. And you can see how the whole journey went from the Z-line small scale model to a thermocol model to a prototype to a mass production. So that's the beautiful aspect of how you need to really make mock-up models a lot to access innovation to take this forward. So that is the whole journey of the Z-line petrol pump. But let me tell you some features of how this Z-line petrol pump was very, very popular, and and why it was very popular. We had to produce pumps cheaper than the competitors, and the competitors were small players. They were not sort of people who were having large overheads. But L&T used to have large overheads. So we had to come up with some innovative aspect of coming up with design where we could reduce the cost. That was a very, very important component. While reducing cost was an important component, and another important aspect was that we had to stand out in the market. The standing out aesthetics was also as important, and you can see this Z-line, because of this shape, unique shape, it was very identifiable, and L&T was out of business, so they had to make it very, very identifiable. So here in this particular product, we reduced the sheet metal consumption by nearly 25 to 40%. So with that reduction, our price fell down and the product was much cheaper. We also have user convenient display panels where the angle of the panel is so good that you can very good angular vision. We had of course the innovative shape I talked about, how the pump makes look inviting. And we had this very good, excellent cost to feature design. The maintenance of this pump was very easy. And then we have, very interesting situation coming up where pump owners started demanding for the Z-line petrol pump because everybody there in the field started associating the Z-line pump with better quality petrol and better measure of petrol. And that measure was happening because of technology. Of course, we had some very good technology inside the pump where we had unidirectional bearings, so there could be no cheating coming up. But the biggest highlight for us was that the customers felt they got better quality petrol because of the shape of the product. So we always keep saying that aesthetics and visual perception is as important as technology. So here it's a very good example of how your product features and aesthetics can play a vital role. We'll show you more of these examples while we take you forward. Now let me quickly show you this slide of the valleys of death. So as I told you, the L&T, for example, was extremely good from the prototyping, the pilot production and the mass production. So they were very good. What they were missing was the design process. So just by plugging in that, one single designer with four team members with CAD modeling, drafting and modeling, with just 4 team members, we could take care of the 700 manpower in my petrol pump division and make innovation happen. So this is very important that you need your efficiency model, but you need to have a separate department for innovation where their major job is only innovation and had no other work in L&T other than coming up with the product. And the whole team was working as a core team. I'll show you how all this was used for developing the collaborative model for innovation.